Hey guys, Spirit Breaker here. Again, coach of AZIO Esports current. Um, I wanted to do something a little different today rather than trying to run through a play or anything in specific. I wanted to kind of follow along with a jungler's pathing. Um, in this case, the jungler is Panda, Echo Fox Panda. Currently have him displayed on the screen. This is him. Specifically, the reason why I wanted to do this is because he just had his LCS debut, and about three months ago, I had the privilege to work with this player on AZIO. Um, so over the past couple months, he's been playing on Academy, and he's been doing pretty well. And recently, the Echo Fox team decided to put him on stage for their main team over Echo Fox Rush. Now, getting into this game, the very first thing I want to do is just look at the drafts, kind of do a quick explanation as to what each team is looking to do, especially early game. And then from there, what I want to do is look more specifically at the pathing and what Panda manages to do in this game, basically. So jumping through it, skip forward a couple seconds so we can see the finalized draft. So it's Kennen versus Rise top. So Kennen, much better for team fight. Rise, much better for split, and will win the lane 1v1 against Kennen, assuming that there is no help from either side towards it. So Rise will slowly just win and outscale this lane. In jungle, we have Jarvan for Echo Fox and Sejuani for TSM. Now, the Jarvan is much stronger early, mid-game duelist, really good engage. But from here, we're going to look at TSM's draft first from mid to bottom and quickly explain what ends up happening to Panda as far as because of draft, he's pinched into essentially only really having one lane he can look towards, assuming everybody plays neutral. So TSM mid lane picks LeBlanc, which is a highly mobile mage, really hard to get onto. So if Panda tries to go mid, it would essentially be a waste of his time. And then after that, we have Ezreal Alistar bot lane. Again, the ADC Ezreal, very mobile champion, very hard to get onto and stick to. And Alistar has great peel, push back, knock away, knock up. He can counter a lot of Jarvan's combo as far as his CC if things are timed properly from the Alistar. So it's very hard for him to gank bottom as well. So just from the draft, we can see that all he can really do is gank top, which should be preventable if Sejuani can just hover topside and make sure that Rise gets to scale. Looking back onto Echo Fox, we have Zoe in the mid lane, which is going up against the LeBlanc. This is a very common matchup. And then we have Tristana, which is a little bit newer. Again, more mobile than ADC, but at the same time, a lot of late game scaling damage compared to the Ezreal from TSM. And Galio versus Alistar. It's a very common matchup right now for supports. Both of them offer a lot of peel and CC. So Echo Fox wants to look for the team fight. Generally, they've got a much better team fight team, whereas TSM has a much better split fight, which came about thanks to the counter pick from Red side, where they were able to last pick Rise into Kennen. So I'm going to jump forward about a minute into this game. And we're going to see right out the gate, TSM, they pushed into the enemy jungle, dropped a ward. This is before any minions spawned, just so they could spot out Jarvan and his path in the jungle. So they want to spot out Panda's path in the jungle. Continuing off of this, Sejuani, knowing that all she needs to do this game is really protect Rise and make sure she gets to scale, Sejuani is starting bottom side of the jungle rather than on her red buff, which is very common, as well as Rise doesn't really want to have to leash. It's hard on him. as a laner. So she ends up starting bottom side on the blue buff. So continuing forward, we see that on Echo Fox's side, they end up not leashing on um, either top nor bottom leash, and Jarvan solos out the red buff, whereas Sejuani has help from her laners, which makes it so she's able to clear the buff much faster than Jarvan. So she's already going to have a little bit of a time lead. Jarvan from the red buff goes to Krugs, which again takes longer to clear. So because of these two things adding up, Sejuani is able to go from Gromp directly to Wolves, and she ends up a camp up by the time that Jarvan finishes Krugs. So from here, Jarvan actually skips Raptors, paths directly up to the top side scuttle, and takes it because Sejuani cannot answer that. Jarvan has red buff. Sejuani, even though she's a camp up, so she's up a little bit experience-wise, they're both still level 2, and she does not have red buff. Red buff makes it so you can 1v1, you can fight, do a lot more damage. It's a really good buff to have if you're looking to fight for scuttle early. As well as Zoe had priority in the mid lane against LeBlanc at this point in time. So Jarvan skips ganking top. He sees that it's going to be basically really hard to gank top currently. Kennan's got kind of a wave building up against him. And so if they gank top and it fails, then Kennen would miss all of that wave. And so they like not to do it because it's just not the safest thing. It's not the best route, basically. So Jarvan clears from blue to Gromp to Wolves to Raptors. And Alex to back after Raptors. So real quick, I want to look at this fight right here because this is actually really important to Panda's pathing. So skipping back, going into it a little bit slower, we're going to see TSM, Smoothie, Alistar right here. He goes in on both the Tristana and the Galio. AZIO follows it up, autoing, looking. They're looking at Tristana. They're trying to get her, who they force her to jump. Smoothie flashes after. Hakuho buys time, peeling, using his crowd control on the enemy. So knock up, taunts, things like that. So now we're at the back end of the fight. Apollo managed to live. So this is really good. And the main reason why this is really good that he managed to live is if you look at the summoners used on both sides, we'll see that right here, these are the summoners. We'll see that Apollo has burned his flash and heal. But on the opposite side, they've burned everything as far as their summoners go. So Sven, Smoothie, the bot lane of TSM have burned Flash, Cleanse, Flash, Ignite, and didn't get a kill. So like I stated earlier, normally if everything goes neutral or even, then there should be a very little chance that Jarvan can gank this lane. But because it does not pan out that way, what ends up happening is pretty much the opposite. So now there's kill pressure available on this lane. You can gank bot lane because they've used up all their summoners. I want to quickly point out, I'm going to maximize this so we can see it a little bit better. So Jarvan on the bottom side, he has recalled, he has bought boots and challenging smite, and he walks directly bot lane. So we're going to get a quick replay. I'm going to skip through it because we already reviewed this. But what I want you to take note of is once we come out of this replay, Sejuani and Jarvan, who both recalled, are going to be pathing towards this bot lane. So Sejuani will be about here on the map, and Jarvan will actually be about here once this replay ends. And they're looking for that gank, like I mentioned. So Panda's here. He's able to help the bot lane, who's under pressure, and they manage to pick up first blood. And more importantly, onto Tristana, who is the late game scaling AD carry. So this is really good. This means that Apollo will have a much better buy, and he'll be able to take control of this lane really quickly. So from there, Jarvan goes, clears his Krugs, and resets. So goes back to base and buys. And from there, his plan will be to clear from top to bottom. So I want to skip forward through this replay through some of these things here. Take a look at more what's vital as to what's happening on the map. So we can see in Jarvan's inventory, he's picked up 2 control wards. So he's going to make use of these control wards to basically invade and pressure the enemy Sejuani. So skipping forward again, he's clearing the way I stated previously. So Gromp to Wolves to Raptors, which is spawning in that order. And from Raptors, we're going to see him make use of what we talked about in a previous video called setting up the play. So in setting up the play, we talked about the first steps to making a play on the map securely being priority into vision. From the vision that you gain, you can reset until it's safe to take the objective, or you can move directly to the objective. So we're going to see a little bit of that right here, right now. So continuing forward, you can see Jarvan pathing. Instead of moving to his red buff, he sees that he has priority both bot lane, and his bot lane is able to move into the enemy jungle with him, and mid lane. And mid lane is again able to move with him. So they look towards the enemy blue buff. They see it's there, and so Jarvan commits. He EQs over the wall, he starts the buff, he gets help from the bot lane, and they end up handing it over to Tristana. My main guess as to the reason why they would do that is just so that they can continue pressuring the bot lane as hard as possible without having to worry as much about having the enemy engage onto them or anything. They're able to constantly have priority in the lane now because Tristana has blue buff. He's able to spend that mana towards clearing waves. Jarvan goes towards his red buff. And again, continuing this priority, he's able to go directly onto the dragon. Because he knows his bot lane has priority constantly. And Zoe's able to fight in the mid lane for priority against LeBlanc, which we see again, and they're able to secure dragon over this. So this is the big things I wanted to cover from this game. The first one being the summoner's disadvantage. So when you're a jungler, sometimes it can be hard to gank certain lanes, but opportunities will free up and everything if the enemy does burn summoners. So in this case, we saw they had burned their summoners bot lane, which made them a fairly easy target. And from there, we saw after the summoner's advantage was used, they were constantly able to punish them for the next 4 minutes on the map. Through the priority that they have bot lane now consistently, they were able to pick up the enemy blue buff. They were able to pick up this dragon. A lot of this being through the priority, vision, resetting until you can get that objective mindset idea that they're continuing and perpetuating throughout the game. So this is Panda's first on-stage game. He's obviously had an excellent showing so far in this match. He's done a lot of good for his team. That's everything I wanted to review of this game. And yeah, I'm wishing Panda the best of luck. He's been an excellent jungler so far, and I hope to see more of him. Thanks.